Welcome to the Ketovangelist Kitchen. I'm Brian.
And I'm Carrie.
And this podcast is dedicated to making things simple and easy for you in the kitchen. Carrie Brown is a classically trained, world-class chef who has a passion for creating ketogenic recipes that taste better than anything you've ever experienced. But more than that, she loves teaching people how to cook the right way.
And each week on this podcast, Brian and I discuss all the ways you can create awesome keto food that is guaranteed to make you a rock star in the kitchen.
If you'd like to learn more about Ketovangelist Kitchen, you can go to ketovangelistkitchen.com and sign up for the newsletter.
In exchange for your email address, you'll get brand new recipes delivered to your inbox, ready for you to whip up in the kitchen and enjoy with your friends and family.
So sit back, relax, and get ready to laugh and learn. You're about to enter the Ketovangelist Kitchen. Okay, so I have a question for you, Carrie Brown, and this might I don't want to insult your delicate sensibilities, because I'm a guy and these kinds of things cross my mind, and you're not, so you might not ever have to experience this. But have you ever, like, you've donned a shirt and then at some point in time, not too far after you've put the shirt on, you realize the shirt does not smell very good at all, but you don't want to change?
No.
No, it's just a guy thing.
However, I am very, very good at putting on particularly new white T-shirts and then going and cooking stuff. And very shortly thereafter, realizing that I'm going to have to go and purchase another new white T-shirt.
Don't you?
I'm very good at that. And after all these years, you'd think I'd have figured out not to cook in new white T-shirts.
Well, you also wear an apron.
I don't know.
Don't you? You also wear an apron.
I do. And yet somehow, when I put on a new white T-shirt and I go cook stuff, the stuff still gets on my new white T-shirt, even though I'm wearing an apron, because I always wear an apron. Aprons are important.
So my when I was in high school, my best friend was her name is Jessica. She and I are still very close today, and she has an uncanny, like almost supernatural gift of being able to get food on her clothes. Like, and it is such a skill. Like, she does it in such a like ninja way. Like, she doesn't even know. Like, she can be eating. Like, she can be eating something that has no marinara sauce whatsoever. Like, she's eating, let's say, like I don't know. She's eating a burger, right? She can finish the burger and she'll look down and somehow, some way or another, there's like Alfredo sauce all over her shirt. And
oh, that's me. Red Robin burgers every time.
But there's no Alfredo sauce.
I do not wear white to Red Robin.
But there's
but
there's no Alfredo sauce in her meal. Like,
right.
there's not, like, she could be eating a steak. She'll look down and there's like General Tso's chicken on her. Like, and she's not even in a Chinese place. Like, that's, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's not even, like, somehow food gets imported and then just like falls on her clothes, especially if it's like a brand new outfit. It is a skill that I am envious of. On some level, she's
saving it for later.
Clearly,
like a squirrel.
Right, very much like a squirrel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
but yeah, me and Red Robin. No, I mean, they're lettuce wrap burgers. Every time my clothes come home wearing some part of that burger. Every time.
So you should make sure that you color coordinate with whatever sauces you're going to be having on.
I cannot wear white to Red Robin anymore. It's not even just my top. I get Red Robin burgers on my pants. I have no idea how that happens.
Isn't that a Labor Day thing? You're not supposed to wear white after Labor Day?
I'm British. I don't subscribe to that.
You don't subscribe to Labor Day or wearing white?
Either.
Oh, come on, Wimbledon. That's all about the white outfits, isn't it?
That's in July, sweetie.
Right, but it's still white.
Nothing to do with Labor Day.
Well, you said you don't subscribe to any of it. I thought you meant you don't believe in wearing white.
No. I meant I don't subscribe to the wearing of white only in certain months of the year.
Oh, you're like, I want to be dirty all year round. I invite.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
I'm feeling like wearing white. It's October. Oh well.
I wonder who comes up with these rules. I'm just curious as to like, and the thing. Okay, it's not just the people who come up with the rules. Like, who are the suckers who are like, oh, I should do that. Like, someone says, oh, you can't wear white after Labor Day, and people are like, oh, okay, I should go home and change. Like, as opposed to like my attitude of, I'll wear whatever I want. Thank you very much.
Right.
You know, I just
you and me. Yeah, I'm there with you. But well, one, it took me years before I figured out the rule anyway, and then I just went oh and ignored it. Plus, cricket. I mean, what kind of country sport decides to wear all white in a game that involves mud and grass and falling over?
And that's the whole thing with Wimbledon, right? They're playing on grass and they're wearing white. Same
and
thing.
if you watch them do it, they have the cricket ball and they kind of shine it in various locations on their all white uniform, and I'm like, really? Like, do you have to buy a whole new set of whites before every game? Because how do you get those marks out? Anyway, whatever.
Gotcha. Okay, so then.
Hello. Should we do the hello, I'm Brian and she's Carrie part?
Go ahead. You start.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ketovangelist Kitchen. I'm Carrie and he is Brian. Say hello, Brian.
Hello. My name is Brian.
Brian's trying to be me. He's trying to do an English accent and he's failing miserably. So let's move on.
I don't think that's true. I'm doing a wonderful one. Hello, my name is Brian and I can count to potato. You're welcome.
What are we talking about?
The roles have really been reversed. Okay, this is riveting radio right here. Well, we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be answering some listener questions, but
we love our listeners. Hi, listeners.
Hello. If you're listening, you are in the category of listeners, so we adore you.
Yes, we do.
Now, before we get to that though, we have some administrative house cleaning that we have to do.
Really? Cleaning? I've spent all morning cleaning. I have to do more now?
You're not done yet. Okay. First things first. If you're listening to this, that means your chances are you're listening on a podcast app on your phone or perhaps your tablet or maybe even your computer. If that's the case, you like the podcast, we could really use your help. You could go to iTunes, make sure you're logged in with your iTunes account, go to iTunes, find the Ketovangelist Kitchen podcast, and leave us a nice rating and review. And we really, really appreciate it because you're awesome for doing it. Now, having said that, I want to read my favorite review that I've seen in a very long time for any of the podcasts that I've done. Do I have time to do that, Carrie? Is that cool?
Yes, that's very cool. Go ahead.
All right. So a couple of days ago, we were looking through to see if anyone had given us any kind of reviews or ratings. And I stumbled across this particular rating and review, and I posted about it in the in our Facebook groups, and I have to tell you guys about it because it's awesome. So here's how it starts. Awful, 1 star. So far I'm interested. Right, this has got my attention.
Who was it from? Who was the poster?
Well, it's the poster's name is probably not really their name. I don't think so.
Really? People use fake names on the internet to hide behind?
I know. What's up with
that?
To avoid all of the potential political stuff, the person who posted this was named themselves after one of the candidates in the recent United States presidential elections. So, it is what it is. But anyway, I want to read the review that we got, and I want to, and I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did. All right. Just listen to 45 minutes of explaining why that's me and Carrie, refuse to put basic macro information in their recipes. For folks who are not sure what I'm talking about, Carrie and I recently did an episode where we talked about why we don't include macro information in our recipes. Okay. Continue. Totally unhelpful. We get it. My fitness pal is inaccurate. So why not put up recipes that are actually, accurate? Even though we did explain in the podcast why we don't do that. But no, I'm sorry. Okay. You can't determine a serving size because it's different for everyone? What a cop-out. 6 ounces of chicken can be a serving size, and it has certain micronutrients, or excuse me, certain macronutrients. So how easy is this? I'd like to take a break for just 1 second. If we had a recipe that was can of chicken, and the instructions were open a 6-ounce can of chicken, put 6-ounce can of chicken on plate, eat 6 ounces of chicken from can, then I totally get your point. But we don't have a recipe that says that yet. Although we may work on that. Carrie, can you work on a 6-ounce can of chicken recipe? That's
no.
all? No? Okay. Then we're not going to have it. Okay.
I won't.
All right.
Fresh chicken for the win.
All right. So it continues. See how easy that is? You're taking information away from your listeners because you don't want them to make their own choices. Just rely on you. So in other words, Carrie and I want you guys who are listening to rely on us for everything because you know better than we do. So Carrie and I know better than you. And this is according to the reviewer. Even though we stated multiple times that the reason we don't put the macro stuff in is because you know what's going on more than we do. And we don't want to give you inaccurate information. Okay. Then the word unsubscribed. So this person is no longer listening. But this is the best part. Here's the best part. Because I think he's right. He or she is right. Oh, and Brian, that's me. You are painfully unfunny. Stick to the content because your clever quips are not working. That right there, I'm like, Mom, I appreciate that. That is a very accurate representation of what's going on around here. So I want to say publicly thank you to the reviewer for that. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your honesty and your candidness because we couldn't do it without you. So there you go. I wanted to make sure I reviewed that. This is what one former listener's take on our show, and we no longer have this person listening anymore because if they're telling the truth, they unsubscribed, so they'll never hear this, and that makes me sad. All right, Carrie, what's your thoughts?
My thoughts were really around the fact that everything the person said was the exact opposite of what we said in the podcast.
It's weird how that works. It's weird. It's
which
fun.
Was, so I've been a little confused about that for a whole day now, but I haven't actually thought about it very much at all.
Right. Well,
plus the adage, in order to care, I have something. I'm totally smashing this up, but it's the whole. Right. In order to feel hurt, I would have to value your opinion.
Right. There's that. Right. That's
yeah.
So now, don't get me wrong. That's not to say that we don't value our listeners' opinions, but when it's a review like that, where now if it's a legit problem or a legit concern, Carrie and I will absolutely handle it. However, we get the sense that this was a direct misrepresentation of what we presented, whether intentional or not, doesn't matter. So there you go. Now, what you can do to help us out with that is you can go in and take some time to counter that review by giving us something that is positive and wonderful and uplifting. For example, Bill J. Ketonian gave us a review, a 5-star review that said, I loved Brian and Carrie when this was just a segment at the end of another podcast, the Ketovangelist podcast. And I'm very happy that it's now its own. This is a must for anyone who really wants to follow a ketogenic diet and make their own meals. So those kinds of positive things, those are wonderful to hear because we think that helps to reiterate the fact that we're trying to help people. So if you want to help us out, you can give us a nice rating and review on iTunes. All right. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone got to enjoy this review, this awful review that we got. And I don't mean the review was awful. I mean that the review was that I'm awful. Now you'll notice he still loves Carrie, which is appropriate, or she really digs Carrie, which is appropriate. Any review that you guys leave, you got to make sure you explain that Carrie is awesome, because Carrie is awesome. So, all right. So that's the review. Carrie, I have a question for you. Do you want to do the Motivation Monday now, or do you want to wait until after we do the listener questions? Which one do you want to do?
Well, after a little thought, I think maybe we should do it now.
Okay.
To counteract the unmotivational portion.
Oh, okay. The portion I just read is what you're saying.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So let's do.
Let's get everybody back on track into the land of success and positivity and happy.
Everyone knows what that means now. It's Motivation Monday. So what is our motivation today?
Our motivation today is don't compare yourself to others. Only compare yourself to yourself, i.e., wherever you are in life now. Instead of comparing where you are to where someone else is, compare yourself with where you were.
So it's important. Okay, so this is the takeaway, right? So don't compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to where you're coming from, right? So because your progress has nothing to do with what someone else is doing. Your progress has everything to do with where you've come, how far you've come. So don't compare yourself to other people, because 1, you don't know where they started. 2, you don't know how far they've got to go. 3, you don't know where they're actually headed. 4, you cannot focus on fixing yourself or getting yourself moving forward or reaching your goal when you're looking at everyone else around you, right? You compare yourself to you, not everyone else. Now, this is kind of a personal one for folks like me and Carrie, because and Carrie will expand upon this a little bit more, but when you are in the process of creating content like Carrie and I do, it's easy to get kind of wrapped up in certain aspects of it and lose sight of the fact that it's about your own personal progress. I'm trying to dance around it without saying it directly, because I want to make sure Carrie gets a chance to address it. But I'll let you go.
So I do so much better when I just focus on what I'm doing and what I feel is the right things for you all. When I'm thinking about creating new recipes or creating new content, I do, where it starts to go sideways for me is when I start looking at what everybody else in our field is doing. And that's when I start second guessing myself, and that's when I start thinking, am I good enough? Do I have any value to add? And so on and so forth. And that's when I have to kind of pull myself back, and then I'll go into my email archives, and I have literally thousands of emails and Facebook comments and IMs and whatnot saying, you've made such a difference, your recipes are awesome, all of this. That's where I draw on when I compare myself to what other people doing, and rightly or wrongly, I then start to second guess me. I do way, way, way better when I just don't look at what other people are doing, when I just focus on what I feel is the right thing to be doing for you all. And I actually ask, I'm very good at asking, what do you need me to focus on next? What is it you're missing? What do you want recipes for? And I do much better when I look at that rather than look out in the world and see what other people are doing.
Right. So there are certain people that it's not that they're not confident. It's that they see things, and I'm one of these people, right? It's not that I doubt my abilities in certain areas. I don't, but I see other people and they're doing things that I'm not currently doing for whatever reason, and I start to doubt my abilities for one reason or another. And that's what Carrie's talking about. So it's a lot easier for us if we are able to focus strictly and solely on where we're coming from, what we're accomplishing, how we are doing, the stuff that we are creating, and not worried about anyone else's stuff. So the idea is for you, the same thing. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. You concentrate on doing the best that you can. You concentrate on improving from where you are coming from, not everyone else's.
And this applies to pretty much everything in life. Of course, it specifically applies to, if you're just starting a keto lifestyle. Keto is very, very individual. And, some things work for others and not for others. Some things work, some things don't. If you're continually comparing yourself with what other people are eating or what other people are doing, rather than what works for you, you're not going to be nearly as successful. And it's really important that you keep an eye, especially those times when you're feeling a bit downhearted because maybe you haven't reached your goal for that week or things aren't moving as fast as you want. It can be incredibly damaging and upsetting to then go see that it seems like everybody else is having this huge success and everybody else is losing more than you and everybody. Blah, blah, blah. What you should be doing in order to not get discouraged and stay happy is compare where you were before. Instead of comparing yourself to someone else, just look at where you've come from, and then you'll see the progress, and then you'll be inspired to just keep on going.
For those who are sports fans in the audience of any kind, the saying that I like to banter about with this regard is, you're used to seeing your practice film, but you're watching everyone else's highlight reel, right? So the stuff that you're seeing is not the grind that they go through, but you've seen the grind that you go through. You know what goes on in your head. You know how hard it is. So just because you see someone who seems to be more successful than you, whatever, that's you can't worry about that. You gotta focus on you. All right, so that's what we want you focusing on this week. Not concentrating on everyone else, but focused on the improvements that you need to make with your own progress. Look at you, not everyone else. All right. Anything else that we want to add to that, Carrie?
Oh, I could go on for days, but let's not.
All right. There is a certain time limit. Okay. Well, there we go. That's Motivation Monday. It has been officially bookended. Now we are going to talk about listener questions. So,
yay!
A little while back, I asked the group, the Ketovangelist Kitchen group on Facebook, which is facebook.com/groups/Ketovangelist Kitchen. If you're not a member of there, you're not as cool as you could possibly be. So, just so you know, we asked them, hey, what are some questions that you got that Carrie and I can answer? And we got a few. So we're going to answer some of them. All right. So, number one, first one is from Shelly Simon. Making the 90-second bread in the oven or convection oven, or is there a recipe similar to that can be done that way? Thanks in advance. Okay, so my assumption is she's asking specifically if 90-second bread can be made in an oven. Now, before I let Carrie answer this, I just want to make a statement. It's 90-second bread for a reason, because you make it in a microwave. And if you're making 90-second bread in an oven, by definition, it's not going to be 90-second bread. I just want to make sure we get that out there. And I've never made it and I've never tried it, but I've heard that it's terrible. But a lot of people like it, I guess. So I don't have personal experience with it. I'm just trying to figure out how to answer this by saying, why would you want to make it in the oven if it's supposed to be made in the microwave? That's what I'm taking away from this. But I'll leave it up to Carrie to provide a better answer.
I'm assuming, because there are maybe other people in the world who don't have a microwave. And actually, I have now just left those ranks, because up until a couple of weeks ago, I did not have a microwave, so I couldn't trial 90-second bread or make a better version for those people who think it's terrible. It's on my list of things to work on to make a foolproof 90-second bread that everybody everywhere loves. But I didn't have a microwave. I do actually now have a microwave. I have discovered that it's very good at heating coffee, but haven't tried it for anything else because I'm just a regular oven kind of girl. However, I do have one, so I will be working on 90-second bread in the microwave.
Do you know who Emeril Lagasse is?
Yes.
Okay, I figured you did, but I wanted to make sure. He's very much an oven guy too, and he basically said the same thing. Microwaves are for heating up your coffee and for popcorn. Those are the two good things that microwaves are for, as far as he's concerned. So you're in good company.
Yeah. So I've microwaved coffee, and I have also warmed up. I used to warm up all my, if I batch cook, or right now I'm working on a crock-pot cookbook. So I have like 136 meals in my fridge because there's just one of me. So, every weekend if I make 10 new dishes that feed 4, then, there's 40 portions. So I've been actually, and I used to reheat everything in the oven, which of course takes time. And I was fine with that because I have a little bit of angst about microwaves and the whole kind of just the microwaves. But now I have one. I'm like, ooh, I could just heat it up in there. And that works well too. It is unlikely that I will ever really use the microwave to cook stuff. However, I do want to help people that do have microwaves and don't have angst with them. So I am going to work on some microwave mug cakes and 90-second bread.
I will say this. Here's what I do. I think you should not put it in a microwave. And and if someone takes umbrage to this, that's fine. Socks should not go in the microwave. Wet shoes also do not put those in the microwave. That's a straight up no. Any sort of like really stinky cheese, don't put that in the microwave. Fish, you probably don't want to put that in the microwave. So I hope this is helpful in some way.
So for me, now we've gone down the microwave rabbit hole.
This is turning into the microwave episode.
Protein, the microwaves do bad things to protein, bad in ways of it is incredibly easy to make animal protein, tough in a microwave. So that's probably one of my biggest microwave no-nos. Why I kind of never had one was because it does bad things to protein.
Okay, bad things to protein.
Well, when I say bad,
hold on.
Just about taste and texture. I don't know if it does anything.
Okay.
Really bad.
You've given me a. I'm under a moratorium. I'm no longer allowed to dibs for a while. I've got a few more days, right? For those who are listening, Carrie has instructed me I'm no longer allowed to call dibs on stuff for a while.
You have about 17 more days.
No,
it's quite a while.
No. It was like
it started at 23, and that wasn't that many days.
It's been a while. I think I've got a week left, is what I'm saying. So I'm not calling dibs, but what I am calling is I'm reserving the right to call dibs on the band name Bad Things to Protein. That's my potential dibs call. So just everyone knows. All right. Next question.
Anyway, so Shelley, we haven't answered Shelley's question yet. So one, I am going to be working on a foolproof, delicious 90-second bread that everybody will love and can make. Can you do it in the oven or convection oven? As Brian said, by definition, it's going to be completely different. It will take a whole lot longer. Is there a recipe that can be done that way? There's a bunch of bread recipes out there. My sense from the community in general is that there's a few that work, but the vast majority of keto/low carb bread recipes don't taste good and regularly fail in one way or another. So bread is something that I am going to be working on, and I'm going to make you a range of bread-like things, which will be no fail and delicious. But right now, Shelley, to my knowledge, there's nothing that you can do to make 90-second bread in the oven.
All right. Okay, so there you go. All right, next question is Debbie Brogan Streeper. She asks, please explain the difference in almond flour and coconut flour, and can they be used interchangeably?
This is a definite easy no. They cannot be used interchangeably. Well, they can, but not if you don't expect to have anything like a successful result if you use them. They can't be used interchangeably successfully.
Oh, wait. Hold on. If you do that, it would be putting the suck in success. No? Come on, that's good. Is this thing on?
Sorry, Debbie. I apologize.
Is this thing on?
Debbie,
Hello?
both of us. Brian.
It's like I'm working alone up here.
Debbie, I'm sorry. Almond flour is literally very, very, very finely ground blanched being the skin's removed, flour, ground almonds. And coconut flour is literally coconut meat that has been actually it's desiccated, so a lot of the moisture is removed. All of the moisture is removed, and then it's ground into a flour. The reason they can't be used interchangeably is they behave very, very differently. Coconut absorbs water like blotting paper. So if you're converting recipes, you have to reduce the amount of coconut flour significantly. You have to increase the amount of liquids, and you usually have to increase the eggs if there's eggs in it. But there's no easy conversion. So if you find a recipe that has coconut flour already in it, and it's a good recipe and it's been well developed, and we assume it works, all goodness. But if you try and switch between the two themselves, if you find a recipe that just has almond flour, you want to use coconut, you're going to have, I don't know how many fails before you get to one that works, and vice versa with coconut flour recipes. You really just have to use a recipe that's already been successfully developed.
All right. So I would just like to tag on to that, that the two things do behave differently. One of them is more of a responsible library type person. The other one is really much more of a rebel, and you don't want to interchange them because one of them behaves very badly and one of them doesn't. So
coconut flour is, even if you're not trying to substitute it into a flour or an almond flour recipe, coconut flour is just difficult. Some people have suggested on the Facebook groups that you can use coconut flour to thicken. I wouldn't recommend even trying it. It's quite grainy, so you never get something that's really, really smooth. And then half the time it might thicken, and half the time it doesn't thicken at all. And if it does, then you're not really sure how much. So thickening, I don't waste all your ingredients trying to thicken with coconut flour. The chances are it will not be successful. And if you do get it to thicken, the texture will be horrible because it'll be grainy. Other people have suggested using coconut flour in place of breading. My experience with coconut flour instead of breading is horrible. Again, very, very grainy. It gives a very grainy, gritty coating on your fish or meat or whatever it is you're trying to coat. I don't recommend coconut flour for either of those two purposes.
All right. So now the next question from Holly McNeil, and she's basically asking for methods for thickening sauces and soups. So what you got?
So in episode 9, which was a miscellaneous Q&A, we did a whole bit on
episode 9 of our podcast, of this podcast.
Yes, episode 9 of our podcast. Okay. We did, in the miscellaneous Q&A, we did a section on thickeners because the Facebook group, people are continually confused about what to replace cornstarch and tapioca and arrowroot and flour and all those things when it comes to thickening. So we did this. So please go ahead and listen to episode 9. That will help you. And the whole thickening portion starts at 29 minutes and 50 seconds if you don't want to listen to the beginning bit, although I'm sure there's lots of gems in the beginning bit too. But the short answer is, for sauces and soups, i.e. hot things, particularly things which have dairy in, the hands down best thickener is konjac flour or glucomannan powder, as its other name, which is 100% soluble fiber. It's from the root of some funky Asian plant. The great things about konjac is it's slower acting. So it doesn't, like if you tip some in, your sauce or stew doesn't immediately kind of go that thick. So you actually have time to get it in. So that's awesome. The other thing about konjac is that it reheats. If you make a sauce one day, or make a stew or whatever, eat half of it, put the rest in the fridge, you'll find that overnight it will have gummed or gelled or got super thick. Another difference between konjac and the gums is that when you reheat it, it goes back to exactly the same gorgeous sauce or stew that you had the day before. The gums don't do that. They either kind of separate or leak liquid, but they don't go back to how they were before. So if you don't eat sauces thickened with gums up immediately, you kind of can't get back to that same just cooked.
All right, so you said you said all in all the best one is konjac, which is different than cognac and is not the same thing as kojak. Those are two very different things.
Right.
One of them is bald. Right. One of them is bald, and the other one is Telly Savalas. So let's
and lollipops. And there's definitely no lollipops involved in this.
No.
And konjac is, don't be frightened by the price, because for a tub it's, I don't know, $10 or whatever, but you use half a teaspoon at a time, so a little bit goes a very long way. You will get better results if you have xanthan or guar. You can use them. You won't get as good results, and they're also more difficult to use because they gel like instantaneously. So if you're not super fast or don't know the best techniques for getting your gums into your whatever, then it's a lot more problematic, and they don't reheat as well the next day. And gums, particularly with dairy-based sauces, gums tend to make them very slimy, and I don't know about you, but slime is just not my thing. Don't really like slimy. Guar gum is better used in cold applications. It's actually better. It does thicken, and it's a great thickener, but its most powerful use is emulsification, which is keeping things suspended in a liquid. So it stops things separating. And xanthan is a thickener, but its best use is for strengthening, so giving structure. So xanthan's best use would be in hot applications where you're trying to find structure. That's why you'll see it added to a lot of baking recipes where we're trying to get the same strength that gluten provides. It's not the same as gluten, but that's its main use, is providing structure.
So what you would not want to do is add that to, say, concrete. That would not add structure, right? Is what you're talking, even if it's hot concrete.
No.
Okay. Just making sure. I don't want anyone to misunderstand.
The other thing is konjac. If you're trying to thicken a cold liquid, konjac is not the best. Konjac works better with heat.
What would be a cold liquid that you would want to thicken? Say like an eggnog?
No, eggnog is cooked.
Oh.
But also eggnog
Hey, what's the
has egg
nog?
yolks, which has the whole thickening emulsification thing in it.
What's the nog part of the eggnog? Like, I've never seen a nog. Like, I've gone to the grocery store and I've like searched. There's no like nog section. You can't find like, you can find eggs, but you can't buy nog. Like, do you have to special order it or something? I mean, what is it?
I don't know, because I'm British and we don't have eggnog in England. That was one of the kind of like, well, first Christmas I was in America, I was like, okay, there was like this epidemic of eggnog popping up everywhere, and I was like, okay, I don't even know what eggnog is, and why is America crazy about eggnog?
Oh, I don't know. Like, you're lucky there, because I can't stand the stuff.
I had a sip of some commercial eggnog and went, why? And never had it again until I was bombarded with requests for eggnog to go in the holiday cookbook. And so I buckled down and girded my loins and made keto eggnog. And now I love eggnog, because if you make it yourself, it is fantastic. Where the nog comes from, I don't know. The only reference I have to nog is that it's short for noggin, which in England is a kind of a slang for your head. Right, exactly. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. So how that translates to nog in egg, I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so did I interrupt you? Because you did. Oh. So the answer to your question was, so guar gum, for example, is super useful if you like smoothies and you particularly like, say, you put spinach or kale, some kind of green leafy thing in your smoothie. Guar gum, a little bit of guar gum will transform your kind of lumpy, spinachy, separating smoothie into something that has the consistency of a proper milkshake. And that's the emulsification and the thickening. So that's when you use guar gum. Have we discussed something like that? My fascination with the name guar gum? Like, because guar gum is not like one word, it's guar gum. Like, someone had to name a thing guar. Like that, like hippopotamus, and this guar. Like, why did that get stuck with why was the guar bean named guar? Yeah, guar. I have no idea. Guar. I guess Thrag likes it. I don't know. Anyway, this is how my brain works. Okay, so guar gum. Like xanthan. So xanthan, like that's an actual name. Like guar is a sound you make after you drink some milk and you're trying to clear your throat. Guar. God, that's not a real word. I'm just saying. So, Holly, for thickening sauces and soups, konjac flour or glucomannan powder. Get it on Amazon. Now Brand is a great brand. You can also purchase it at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. Not konjac. You can. I saw konjac at Whole Foods. Yeah. Sorry, Trader Joe's, not Trader Joe's. Oh. Okay, can't do it at Trader Joe's. Well, then we hate Trader Joe's. We're just saying that now. No, we don't. We love Trader Joe's. No, we do not. Everything. Okay, fine. Whole Foods, I've never tried to get it in Whole Foods because, the whole paycheck thing. So right, and there's also usually a very long line of hipsters that you have to. There's way too many suspenders. There's way too many suspenders in a Whole Foods. I'm just saying. I live in the Austin area. Way too many suspenders, way too many rolled up jeans. I'm just... Trust me, there are no suspenders in the Whole Foods in Seattle. I'm not surprised by that. I'd be surprised if people are like wearing a full outfit in the Seattle Whole Foods area. There's lots of shorts and cargo pants and sandals. No suspenders. Even when it's cold outside, like especially when it's cold. They're just proving a point. We're hardy breed. That's right. When I think of Seattle, I think of the hardy breed that goes, you people are lumberjacks. You're descendants of lumberjacks. So, yeah. All right. So did we answer that question? So, Holly, you can check out episode 9 to get an even more detailed answer to that. But I think Carrie hit the high points for thickening soups and sauces. Yes. Also, another option is don't thicken them. Just, let them be thin. That's another option too. I don't recommend that. Okay, fine.
All right. So then let's see. Next question is coming. Okay. So the next sort of question is from Amy Beth, and I'm going to mispronounce the last name. I'm sure it's Henkes. I'm hoping. And she basically
I would
says
say Hanks. So hopefully
Hanks.
we're covered either way.
All right. So you're saying Hanks. I'm saying Henkes. One of us is either right or we're both wrong. And either way, someone will let us know. And she says keto bad breath. And the assumption there is she would like to know how to get rid of it, not how to get it, right? So we're going to assume she's not saying, hey, how do I get keto bad breath? She's saying, we have it, we want to get rid of it. Is that a fair assumption? I think so.
That I would assume, I would make that same assumption.
All right, so I'm going to take this one first, and the easy answer.
Good, because I have no experience of keto bad breath.
All right, so keto bad breath is a result of spontaneous breakdown of two primary ketone bodies. There's three main ketone bodies that you've got: beta hydroxybutyrate, acetoacetate, and acetone. The keto bad breath that people experience, that is the smell of acetone. That is a breakdown product of the other two, of beta hydroxybutyrate or BHB and acetoacetate. So when those two main bodies break down into smaller composite parts, one of the breakdown products is acetone. It's the same exact chemicals or a chemical makeup as the stuff that you take off fingernail polish with. So the reason that your breath smells bad is because you're exhaling acetone. You've got it in your respiratory system and you're exhaling it. Now, how do you get rid of it? You can do one of three things. You can just kind of gut it out, because eventually your body will adjust and you don't have to worry about it so much. You can chew a lot of gum, or you can take some of those like anti-sulfur kinds of tablets that sort of deodorize your esophagus. So really the best thing to do though is to just kind of, your body will get used to it and it won't smell as bad. Just if it's really, really that bad, then, you know, have some what's a good sugar-free gum? I don't even know anymore. Five. There's like 5 gum. You know, chew on a stick or 2 of those, and that should cover it up. But after time, after a little while, it'll go away. That's my recommendation. All right. So Carrie's already said that she doesn't have any experience with that. So we're going to move on to the next one, which is...
Well, either my cats don't care and nobody ever told me, or...
That's the worst. That is the worst, right? Like a good friend is going to tell you, dude, your breath stank, right? Like a good friend is going to tell you that because they care about you. Someone who is not a good friend to you, they're not going to tell you that. They're going to let you go throughout the day. So if you did actually have stinky breath and no one told you, they don't care about you. I'm just saying.
Plus, I'm a bit of a hermit, so you know. But anyway,
right. So the other hermits, they don't notice. That's what you're saying,
right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Casey Jo Harmon asks, what is your suggestion for meal prepping for this keto lifestyle to be appealing to a busy, always on the go person? Now, before we get to that, we're gonna answer 2 questions at once, because Jane McNaughton also asked a very similar question. Basically, meal prep for 1 or 2 is the question. How to meal prep. So we're gonna take this. We're gonna give a brief answer, but we're gonna follow it up by saying this is going to be an episode or 2 that Carrie and I are going to do as a separate episode at some point in time in the near future. So there's going to be a meal prepping episode, but we'll give you we'll give Casey and Jane a brief answer now. So I'll let Carrie go first.
Thinking.
Oh, you know what really works well on radio type stuff? Silence. People dig that. That's the best.
That's why I said thinking. Break silence.
It's like you're looking at Windows, like the operating system, and like nothing's happening, and all you're looking is just like, show me something, like show me, like blink, do something so that I know that it's progressing. That's all I'm saying.
So keeping it simple is my best suggestion is, and when I started keto, this was me, was protein of choice, sauteed, with a side of a simple sauteed vegetable. So dinner for me for that first 3 months literally took me 5 minutes, maybe 10.
Yeah.
The other thing for meal prep I found that really helps is on a Sunday, because that's most people's day before they go back to work, things like making batches of, or maybe slow cooking batches of pulled beef or pulled pork, so that you've then got 6 pounds of protein ready in the fridge, which then you can whip out and use to make lettuce wraps, or if you've got some keto bread or keto buns, you've got a pulled beef sandwich. Things like cooking bacon in advance, cooking a whole pan of bacon on a Sunday and then bringing it out when you need it. Things like the egg muffin things where you can, or an egg casserole where you can make 12, 24 on a Sunday, put them in the fridge and then take a slice, or, 2-3 egg muffins for breakfast so that it takes you no time at all. Those are the kinds of things that I did when I started out, as well as just having a stock of, I buy lamb chops, pork chops, steaks when they're cheap, freeze them, get them out of the freezer the night before, come home, saute them, saute some fresh vegetables, add some healthy oils, some healthy dressings if you have access to some, or make your own, and dinner is done in 10 minutes. Also, the slow cooker is a really, really good way to make it easy.
Okay, so my addition to that would be the emphasis when you're talking about meal prep is prep, right? So if you let yourself get caught up in the fact that you've got to, every day you've got to figure out something new or something different, that's a problem. But if you sit down on like a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever, however your week works out, some people work different schedules. But if you sit down on a day, the beginning of your week, and you say, okay, this is what we're going to have this day, this is what we're going to have this way, this day. So you know what to buy, you know what you're cooking, and you can do it ahead of time. You can stick it in the fridge or the freezer, and you can just reheat it as needed. So it's the prep part that matters to me, less than the actual meal part that matters. Of course, like Carrie's saying, keeping it simple is going to be crucial, especially in the beginning. You want to just keep it nice and easy. You don't want anything to be complicated, but you can easily lay out your menu for the week and cook ahead of time. Like Carrie was talking about, do a batch group of something. If you want to have, if it's, if your personality is anything like mine, first of all, I'm sorry. Second of all, you can eat the same thing over and over again, and it's not that big of a deal. So if you're having the same dinner every night and it doesn't bother you very much, go for it. Make a batch version of that and just eat as you see fit. What you'll also notice is the longer that you are disciplined in keto, the less your appetite actually starts to erupt. You eat fewer and fewer times, and you eat smaller and smaller meals, and it's just because your hormones aren't craving all of the food all the time. So it's a nice little side effect in terms of that. So
in terms of, when I'm working on a cookbook, for example, I do, and I guess this will translate into meal prep, I do sit down and I figure out, or I come up with all the recipe ideas I have, and I write a big old shopping list. And then on Thursday night, I'll stop in at the grocery store on the way home from the day job, and that planning in advance what you're going to make and what you're going to need and having it makes the entire process of then cooking so much simpler and less stressful. Just doing that in advance, rather than then you often find that you're wasting time because you either have to make an additional run to the shop if you forgot something, or you think, oh, well, I haven't got that, so I can't make that. And then you spend, 10, 20, 30 minutes trying to find another recipe. So definitely the pre-planning and the making a list and going and getting it all also makes a huge difference when it comes to the amount of time and energy it takes you to actually get something on the table.
Yeah, and that's another thing that is overlooked in terms of your meal preparation is if you know exactly what you're making for the week, you know exactly what to buy, it saves you time in the grocery store also. You're not just idling up and down shelves looking for something, thinking of, you have your list, and that's, you know where you're going, you can just knock it out and you're good. You're done.
The other thing I like to do when I'm preparing to do a whole bunch of new recipe development for a cookbook or for the blog is that I will tend to buy, like if it's something with, I don't know why this popped into my head, but canned tomatoes in it, then I'll make several other recipes. I'll do all the canned tomato recipes at the same time. You can translate that into meal prep by maximizing effort and saving money by then not having a bunch of leftovers because you made this and you've got half a can of tomatoes left over, or you've got half a bunch of basil, or and all those things that you now either have to use up or waste. So the planning ahead of time also means that you can maximize effectiveness and lower cost by doing similar recipes with similar ingredients over the course of a week.
Right. So again, really for me, what it comes down to is the prep side. When we're talking about meal prep, being prepared or preparing yourself for the week is really the key there. It's less about the actual food. It's more about getting a plan, because you can fit in the meals that you want if you've got a solid plan that works for your lifestyle.
Right. And you can do things like batch saute, hamburger or ground beef or mince, as we would call it in England. Do it in advance, cook off 2 pounds, put it in the fridge. Then when you get to Wednesday and you're having, tortilla free or cheese tortilla tacos, the meat's already done. You've literally just got to warm it up and assemble.
That's Tuesday. That's Taco Tuesday.
Oh, it's Tuesday.
You can't have a Taco Wednesday. You can't. You could have a Waffle Wednesday, but you can't have Taco Wednesday.
A keto Waffle Wednesday.
Yes,
with
you can
ground
have
beef on. Okay,
yes.
Whatever. But you get my point.
Yes.
Right. You can instead of having to cook ground beef 3 times, you can just cook an enormous pile of it up, put it in the fridge, and then just pull it out, reheat it, and assemble it into whatever dish you're going to use with it.
Right. Okay. So there you go. I think it's in terms of meal prep, that's a good one. Now, Haley Nelson also asked a very similar question. I think Carrie answered it as well, but I want to give her another shot, just in case she wanted to add something. Haley Nelson, I apologize. Nelson asks, what are some simple, easy meals for someone just starting out? And Carrie did kind of talk about that a little bit, but I wanted to see if she wanted to get some more details into what her answer already.
I just really can't recommend highly enough when you start out, don't worry about recipes, right? Just keep it really, really simple. Lamb chops and some sauteed green vegetables. Of course, I think everybody knows my favorite is leeks, but, or lamb chops and a salad, a nice, fresh, exciting lettuce salad, pork chops, pork belly, a nice tri-tip steak or a fattier steak. Saute them, saute some vegetables, toss a salad, eat. It's incredibly fast. It's also incredibly simple. For me, it took the focus off the whole macros and the complications and like, what am I going to eat and searching for recipes. It took that all away. And I did that for 3 months. And it just gave me the opportunity to kind of reset my body. It got rid of all the cravings. Dinner was not a stress. It wasn't a worry. It took 10 minutes a day. It was super easy. It was just the most stress-free. And so for if you're starting something new, I would really, really recommend that that's how you start out. because if you make too many changes at the beginning, that's when it can very easily become overwhelming.
For
Or,
sure.
you seem to spend your entire life just completely focused on searching Pinterest for recipes that you then don't know are going to work or taste good, and spending time and buying ingredients, and it can just become very, very stressful. Keep it super simple to start with, so your body can make those initial changes, and then once you've got used to it and you're fat adapted and your body's no longer in confusion, then if cooking is your thing, or baking, or you want to experiment, or you want more variety, then start looking at recipes and branching out. That would be my best advice for anybody getting going.
All right. So keeping it simple at first. Don't even worry about all the fancy stuff. And then once you get comfortable, because it is kind of a shock, right? When you're first starting out, it's you're eating in a way that you've never eaten before, and you might want to take some time to get used to it. Okay.
And eggs. I mean, simple, easy meals. Eggs.
Oh, you know what I had for breakfast this morning? Speaking of which, eggs. Speaking of which, you want to know what I had for breakfast this morning? I know you do.
Well, I'm assuming you had cheese and salami, but now it sounds like maybe you did something different.
I'm out of salami. We're all out. I haven't been able to replenish after I finished it off. But this morning,
you're living in a house with no salami.
That's correct. That is correct. Yes, it happens.
Who are you?
Well, it happens. It is a logistical situation that does occasionally occur. I'm going to remedy it as soon as I can, but at this point, this is the situation we're in. So this morning,
what a pair! Because you know what? This morning, I had no heavy cream in the house. I was living in a house with no cream. It was an impossible situation.
Yeah, it's almost it's almost not worth it.
So I had to go to the store to get heavy cream, right. And I came back with another 800 pounds of tri-tip and about 600 pounds of lamb chops because they were super cheap, and my butcher's awesome.
But you still don't have any cream.
No, I do.
Okay.
I did actually remember the cream.
All right.
And actually, I was glad that it turned into a meat adventure, because all the meat was like $3.99 a pound, which was just like, whereas it should be $8.99 a pound. So I was super happy.
So I'm still not allowed to call dibs, but
right, you're not.
But I'm reserving the right to call Meat Adventure dibs for band name of Meat Adventure. So I'm just saying.
Trips to the grocery store should never be dull, in my opinion.
Clearly not.
There's always ways to make them fun.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Maybe
we should be banned from our own podcast. You have no salami and I have no cream. Who are we?
Oh, that's a good idea. That'll be another really interesting episode where neither one of us are on. So this morning, my son made some bacon, because that's what he likes to do. He likes to make a lot of bacon. So he made like half a package of bacon. And so there's this layer of bacon grease in the pan, and I went in and I made 3 or 4 slices myself. And then, so now there's like a really thick layer of bacon grease in the bottom of the pan, and I cracked about 5 or 6 eggs in there and just let them absorb all of the bacon fat as they cooked around. And then I put about a half a pound of guacamole in with it. And then I crumbled up the bacon and put it back in. So I quite honestly had green eggs and bacon this morning.
Green eggs and ham
for breakfast. That's what I had. So,
yum.
So my point is that's pretty simple, right? There's nothing really, not really complicated to that. All right. So next question is from Maria Drilling. Do artificial sweeteners cause cravings? Can I take this one first before you go to it?
Yes.
Okay.
You may go.
So Maria, the answer is it depends, because I can't answer if it's going to cause you cravings. I can tell you that it does not cause me any cravings, but I do know other people where it does cause them to start having cravings. Now, cravings is not the same thing as an insulin spike. Cravings is not the same thing as having a blood glucose spike. Cravings is a psychological issue. Cravings is a mental issue where you taste something and all of a sudden you want to satisfy some sort of vacancy with a particular kind of food. So to answer the question, to the best of my knowledge, do artificial sweeteners cause cravings? I don't know. Now, I'm also going to delineate the term artificial sweeteners from what Carrie and I have talked about as natural sweeteners. I don't ever eat any artificial sweeteners. I do, however, consume erythritol or stevia. Those are the two natural sweeteners that I do consume. They do not cause me to experience any kind of cravings. So that's my answer. So I'll let Carrie go now.
What Brian said.
There we go. Finally.
So
wait,
there's
hold
been,
on. Wait a second. You agreed with me. You agreed with me. Hang on a second. What is going on here?
I know I'm moving on so rapidly because it's like happening all the time now, and it's really upsetting me.
I do not like where this is going.
I know, right?
Okay.
So that's why I'm moving on.
All right. We're not going to dwell on this.
We keep agreeing.
We're not going to dwell on this.
We agreed about salted butter and coffee. We've agreed about all sorts of things. It's quite frightening.
I don't like where this is headed.
Anyway, so Maria, there's been lots of studies. There's been a ton of studies that say artificial sweeteners do cause cravings, that they cause insulin to spike, that they cause blood sugar raising. There's also been a lot of studies, other research that says none of those things happen or some combination of those things happen. So I think we don't know definitively, because some studies have shown that they do and some have shown that they don't. My takeaway from that is it's a very individual thing. And therefore, there's no definitive answer as in it does this all the time to everybody.
Right.
It may do it some of the time to some people. This is one of those instances where you have to find out what works and what doesn't for you. And again, maybe that's not the answer you want to hear, but Brian and I are not in the business of misleading you.
No.
And I think anybody that answers this question definitively and says, yes, it does, is not being helpful. I do not believe, given all the research, that there's a definitive answer to this. And I do know that as individual as we all are, nobody can possibly know that for you. And if they tell you they do, then run away.
Right. Yeah. So it's best for you to give it a shot. But I would also caution you, if you think that there's a possibility that it would, then don't mess with it. Like if you're trying to figure out, hey, can I eat this? I'm afraid it'll give me cravings. Then why? I mean, if you're
sorry, carry on.
No, if you are trying to thread that needle, that just seems to me something, why bother with it? It's just avoid it completely and be done with it.
Plus, I think, and this isn't all people who are eating keto, but a lot of people who are eating keto also do, clean keto, i.e. if it's an artificial thing, we try and avoid it as well. I mean, technically it's still keto, but would you want to put artificial stuff in your body? I know I try to avoid it most of the time. And similarly to Brian, I don't have any issues with erythritol or xylitol, which is the two sweeteners that of choice. I don't like stevia. I think it's incredibly bitter, so I don't use it. But erythritol and xylitol don't have any adverse effects on me in terms of psychological cravings or physiological cravings or insulin spike or blood sugar. They don't make me stool. But for some people, they do. So you need to find your sweet spot on this issue, as well as everybody else does.
You made a
sweet
punny.
spot.
Yes. Very good, Carrie. Very good. All right. So hopefully that answers your question. All right. Last question that we've got. And this is all you. All right. So, and by you, I mean Carrie. Paula Fitzgibbons asks, my 12-year-old daughter has rheumatoid arthritis, but she's full keto. So she's also an awesome baker and a chef, and she loves to cook keto stuff, which is great. That was my comment. That is fantastic. For some reason, cupcakes are the one thing she cannot master. They seem to deflate when keto, or like when she makes a keto cupcake, they deflate. Or they're too dense. So she's even used recipes that work well for a full cake, but when she puts them in cupcake form, they don't work. So she's asking any ideas why. So I'm going to let you handle this one.
Okay. So my first response to any fails is typically you probably had a bad recipe. And I've said this before, and I say this because I have an inbox full and Facebook DMs full of people saying so many times they've had recipe fails from using recipes out there in the internet. So I know a lot of the recipes are bad. That would be my first thing, is that you're not using a good recipe.
Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you say you had a bad recipe one more time?
No.
No? Come on. Just say, like, my first inclination would be it's a bad recipe. Just say that. No? Come on.
No.
I'm going to use my sound effects anyway. You don't have to play. Go on.
And I don't say that to be mean. It is what it is. And what frustrates me about bad recipes is that invariably, you all lovely listeners assume that the fail is because you can't cook, or because you did it wrong, or because somehow it was user error. Most of the time, I don't believe it's user error. I believe it's bad data. So, also, of course, that'll bring me to my second favorite topic, which is weighing and measuring things. With baking, if you're using cups, you are never going to get, for dry ingredients, you are never going to get consistent results, or possibly good results, because baking is very exact. It's a science. And a small variation in the amount of dry ingredients can totally throw everything off. Specific to your question, though, keto baked goods do have a tendency to be denser, depending on the recipe, have an inclination to be denser than normal recipes, because the gluten in flour is what gives it the structure. So there's air, and there's the gluten, and the batter rises from the effects of the air that's been beaten in there, or the effects of the baking powder giving off gas that raises the thing. The gluten keeps it there. And it's difficult to find something that has as much power or strength as gluten to keep it raised once it is. And that's typical across low carb and gluten things. They do tend to be denser, because although they may raise initially, there's not enough strength there to keep it up. So they do tend to either not rise as much, i.e. be quite dense, or collapse. However, without looking at the recipe or talking to you, when you talked about using a recipe that worked well as a full cake but not as cupcakes, my best guess from the information I have is that it's to do with cooking temperature and time. So if you have one large tin of batter versus 12 small tins of batter, you're going to need a different baking temperature and a different baking time. And so I would guess that if you've got a batter that you know works for a whole cake, you tweak the temperature and the length of time. That would be my first port of call for fixing what's happening, if you know it's a recipe that works well.
All right. So there you go. Hopefully that helps. And there will be more said on this, probably more done on this too later on from us. So, all right. So those are the questions.
The other thing that just occurred to me, because I always have thoughts once you've started speaking again.
Someone should.
The other thing is that often one of the problems is out of date leaveners. So baking soda or baking powder, if they're not fresh, that can often be a cause of recipe fails in the baking department.
All right. So keeping it fresh. That's important. Keeping it fresh. All right. So those are the questions. Those are all the questions that we had. we'll ask again. But if you, in the meantime, before we ask, if you've got a question that you want us to answer, give us a hashtag of listener questions, and you can find us on the Twitters. We are Ketovangelist Kitchen on the Facebook group too. Ketovangelist Kitchen on Facebook too. You can find us there and ask us a question about something you want us to answer on the show. And if you just hashtag it with listener questions, we will get to it. All right, I think that's about it. Did we miss anything, Carrie Brown?
We probably missed a lot of things, but
Oh, well, I didn't at all.
you got everything?
I always get everything.
Then we're all good.
All right,
it's
then.
all good. If Brian got everything, we're in good shape, people.
Fantastic. Okay, so then until next week, Carrie Brown, be awesome, because you are, and stuff. And hey, people who are listening, iTunes, rating and review. Tell everyone how awesome Carrie is, because she is. All right. Bye.
See ya.
All right, so that's our first session of listener questions from the kitchen. Hopefully you'll have some more, so you know how to get a hold of us. Tag us with listener questions, and we'll answer them as they come in. Seriously, Carrie's awesome. You should tell her that on iTunes. She would love to hear it. And I want to be able to tell her that I was right, that you people think she's awesome. So do that. All right, then. Until next time, y'all keep being cool and whatnot. And we'll see you in the kitchen. Powered by ketones.